after jumping me is, generally.
Imagine it had 3 million views, right? Imagine it had 3 million views and there's a remix. Like, it would be brutal.
It's still, I would say every time it happened to me, it was still humiliating. It still kind of bruises your ego. It's still kind of, just the fact that people could put their hands on you and take that, take control. Basically, you don't have control because they're just going to fucking violate you. And, that right there, I would say it's already kind of, that's just, to me, that's kind of reduces or produces such a strong psychological response that you kind of just want to do horrible shit to them anyways. A video would just be icing on the cake. I don't know.
It amplifies it in the same way that social media amplifies it. Like that shame, that disrespect gets amplified, and then people for some fucking reason lose their shit. And like, I remember being a fucking angry teenager. I totally sympathize for these kids nowadays because it is brutal. If you fuck up once, it's on replay forever. So that's just
Thanks for inviting me to the stage. Think about the dopamine aspect of it, right? Because I know we're talking about social media and the teens, right? What's happening is let's say you have two rival groups, right? They're going against one another, right? Remember back in the day when we were in school, if you get beat up in a neighborhood, only your neighborhood knew. Or you and that person you were fighting. Now the whole city knows. The whole region, the whole East Coast knows, West Coast, whatever, right? So I'm about to show you the dopamine aspect of this, right? Now they have websites that keep scores of rival teenage gangs, right? So Pepe, if you're in a gang, right, I give you a player ranking. Oh, Pepe shot 2 guys. He's at 85 now, right? And these websites get millions of views, hundreds of thousands of views, right? So it's also a dopamine that these kids get because it's not over money where they're killing each other. It's all over social media, clout, and that dopamine you get. If I get a 95 power ranking of, destroying this rival gang, that's how a lot of this stuff is going on to the teenagers. You're saying,
dude, I've seen like the videos. It was like Who I Smoke, and then like the guy with the dreads, listing off, a good, 30 or 40 people that his group of people ended up smoking, and I was kind of like floored. I was just like, holy shit, this is so. Compared to the 90s, even it was. The fact that this is out there.
The gamifying of culture like that, I mean, it actually kind of lifts a little bit of the weight off the video gamers' shoulders because they've caught a lot of flack over the years for violence, and movies too. But they don't even make good movies anymore, really, do they? But the gamifying of culture like that is really pretty sick, man. It's a real sign of sickness, and it just kind of shows how, what I believed is that the social media is like cancer. It's like it really does act like cancer. It mutates and it makes things sick. And I guess that the internet, social media.
Eric, if you take away social media, I will guarantee you 50% of those crimes that's going on will stop. I will guarantee you that.
Oh yeah, man. Look, I haven't.
Hey, yo, let me ask you. Hey, Pepe, just so you when somebody say they smoking on somebody, that don't necessarily mean they saying that they were responsible. It's just a way of mocking someone's death. Like, if someone died from fucking cancer or get hit by a car, motherfuckers will say, well, I'm smoking on so-and-so. I mean, they just mocking the death. That don't necessarily saying they taking claim for it. That's not exactly...
No, I get it, but are you aware of those guys from Tallahassee?
No, I'm not.
These are documented gang members who've been basically 2 gangs that have been going at each other for years. So I mean, these guys aren't. Some of them are in prison now. They're not. It does appear as though like which individuals pulled the trigger. I don't know. But of course, some of the rappers are dead, and some of their family members were killed in this fighting. So I mean, these appear to be and that's why I was kind of taken aback because there's so much news coverage about it. That's well documented. I mean, these were this was basically art based off of shit that's actually happening in their lives in Tallahassee.
No, I definitely get that. I was telling this room a few weeks ago, or a month ago or so, when people were saying that how what's causing the violence, they were still thinking that it was over territory and drugs and gangs, and I was just letting them know the majority of the shit that's happening these days is over social media. These people don't even live nowhere near each other. There was just something that was said on social media is what's causing the violence these days. It have nothing to do with drugs, gangs, or territory. I was saying this shit about a month or two ago, but now I'm glad to see the people is realizing what's really going on.
But you can look. There's actually it's an interesting documentary. I believe it was done by HBO, and it's from like 1992, and it was in the DC men's jail where they're housing juvenile inmates that are facing adult charges, usually for murder, and it's I would say you can just hear it out of their own mouths. Very violent, predatory kids. And if you remember DC, when I was a kid, that way, I was born there. I didn't live in the bad part, but it was the murder capital of the country. I mean, it used to get, it was super fucking bad. And, even before social media, the murder rate was so high and bad. Like, New York City is so much safer than it used to be. I mean, there were areas in New York City people would just completely fucking avoid. Same with DC. Same with a lot of places that are far safer now. There's a bunch of theories for why the crime's gone down, but I don't know. It seemed to. I would say we actually got safer as social media usage and smartphone usage has increased.
It's really, from my perspective, it's hard to, I know the stats say that it went down. It's like, just say in Chicago, I can speak to Chicago. Your friend back, Roger.
Terrible singing. I'm looking for verse 2, yo. Verse 2 is where it's at.
Yeah, we're not gonna get there. I forgot what I was saying. Thanks.
You were saying that that statistically the murders have gone down.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, like the stats say that it's going down in Chicago, but what I really see, like, just say like the Cabrini Green projects and the other projects in Chicago is like where a lot of the violence was centered at. And they tore the projects down and they moved the people across Chicago and throughout the suburbs. So what I see is like the Chicago rate is going down. That's where everybody track, but no one is really tracking the suburban numbers, which are going up. So I would say that the numbers, I can't track the numbers personally myself. Well, I probably could if I really tried, but there's so many suburbs to really track all the numbers. But I would say that the violence is equal. I mean, probably worse, almost. Well, it's more violent because people got automatic weapons, you know what I'm saying, with 50-round magazines. And like, it was just a shooting a day in the suburbs, 5 to 10 minutes from my house. I'm driving for Uber and I couldn't get around. 2 cars riding up the street in the suburbs shooting at each other. One of them crashed into a car, the other one hit a pole. Young guys jump out with AK-47s and all that running, and people literally videotaping it, posting it to Facebook. So I just think it's more violent. Like, people are actually robbing banks and armored cars around here now. That shit wasn't back in the 90s. But I think it's more spread out now.
Well, it is kind of.
No, you said it, man. Yeah, you said it. I mean, you said it. People are posting it. I remember living there in Chicago back when they were having the last Cabrini Green buildings going down, and they were integrating all the people from those housing projects into the neighborhoods. And I always thought it was kind of fucked up that they like marked the houses with red sign on them when they had like families coming for Cabrini Green, so you know where they were. It was real fucked up. But I don't remember any kind of, there was never any stories about people getting killed with automatic weapons in Chicago. I thought that was kind of interesting that you took it back there for me, because I was like, yeah, it wasn't like that. But I think that, from the time where I lived there, which is 20 years ago, to now, I think that, there was a whole cartel era where I believe that the cartels co-opted the gangs there, and yeah, it's kind of wild to see it. It was kind of wild to see that kid get killed. It just there had to be 300 kids in the park there, right on Michigan, and but I thought it was really interesting what you said. I mean, they're posting this shit. It's like a clout thing, and that's fucked up, man. And I think there's going to be a lot more. Unfortunately, I think there's going to be a lot more like online policing, cyber policing that goes down, and it'll be interesting over the next decade to see how that comes to the surface, and we understand how they're starting to police. Because I'm assuming that it's happening. I don't really.
Oh yeah, Eric, it's already going on. You have online units, and trust and believe me, 95% of these little cliques or gangs or whatever you want to call them, right? These kids, they're getting caught. Like, they're actually getting caught. They're getting locked up. So some of these crews won't be around in 2-3 years. They already locked up, and a lot of them going to do a lot of time, or they dead already. But that's what's going to happen.
But I was going to say...
And another thing, too, hold on, I'm laying here. Another thing, too, because we keep saying this word kids, right? According to today's, because, today is a different day we live in now. According to today's code, 16, if you're 16-year-old and you got a gun or you dissing dead people, you are an adult now, according to the streets and these guys' code. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add something to about policing. I'm glad you brought up cyber units and whatnot as well. And I just something kind of occurred to me, because I'd say probably back in about 2018, 2019, around that area, there was a guy that I knew out here in LA, and he was trying to create a television show, and it was showcasing how centrally connected the closed circuit cameras system for the Chicago PD was. And they had this crazy CENTCOM. They were already kind of putting in autonomous capabilities into the technology. And this is such a cool conversation, because it's cool to think about back to that project. And I was very highly impressed. I was like, that's really positive that they can get, organized to fight crime like that. But then you fast forward 6 years, and it doesn't really seem like it's gotten much better. So it kind of makes me scratch my head a little bit. Maybe that kind of policing isn't where it's at, in terms of the closed circuit cameras, the central commands. But I think the cyber units, I'm just floored right now to go learn about cyber units. So anyways,
I was going to mention automatic weapons. I understand with Glock switches, a lot of the thugs have them. They're illegal. There were a lot of machine guns that were used, particularly in the 80s and 90s, particularly submachine guns such as, Mac 10s, Mac 11s, and Uzis. They used to sell them in an open bolt configuration, and they were incredibly
on Miami,
easy to
Miami Vice. I didn't see any Uzis.
Yes, kind of on Miami Vice. And Miami Vice, of course, was the 80s.
If you get caught with a switch, man, they should just throw your ass in jail forever, bro.
But the thing about that, though, is that these were incredibly easy to turn into full auto, and they weren't illegal. They were basically legal guns that were purchased, then converted. But the ATF, of course, made it so that you couldn't sell them in that configuration anymore. They confiscated, any that they got a hold of. But no, machine guns are definitely used a bit in the, a few decades ago.
Yeah, in Miami, right?
All over. I mean, it's not. You didn't need a machinist or anything to turn the weapon into fully automatic. It was just some knowledge that got passed around.
There's a misnomer that people have about fully automatic weapons. Some people believe that it's illegal to buy them and to own them, and that's simply not true. You can buy them, you can own them. There's just some conditions around it. You would have to get a particular stamp to be able to purchase one, and it has to be made before 1986. But you can buy it. Because of the ban on new fully automatic weapons, you're not able to. The price is very high for the older ones, but a lot of people are unaware that it is perfectly legal to purchase a fully automatic weapon, provided that you have the right stamp and that it was built before 1986.
And it pretty much is a collector's item at this point, depending on which. There's a few. It's the lower receiver. Obviously, that would be considered a machine gun, which is cool because that's it's in the upper receiver. Those are the parts that have to be changed out far more frequently. But I have any new modern machine gun you see at a gun store that they'll rent out to you and let you shoot. Those were law enforcement demos that they were authorized by the police department or whatever to demo for them. ATF approves it, but civilians can't get that shit unless you're a.
But semi-automatic guns can fire extremely rapidly. There's not really a huge advantage to having them fully automatic. It just sprays bullets inaccurately.
No, I agree. I mean, infantrymen rarely, if ever, use it on full auto. They rely on belt-fed light machine guns generally.
Yeah, you'd probably in a firefight prefer to have burst than simply fully auto. The burst fire is also restricted, but the idea that you wouldn't want to have that at your disposal and that you'd be fully comfortable with a semi-automatic is just untrue too. The military is not outfitting people with ARs. Let's just put it that way.
When you're doing like a peeled maneuver off of a line, you're going to want to have that full auto because it does a suppressing fire and keeps the enemy's heads tucked down. So it depends on what's going on currently in the firefight.
Well, couldn't you have like a double trigger semi-auto? I've seen some of those modifications. That looks just as dangerous as full.
Pistols? Yeah, I've seen pistols like.
You know what I like? I like the semi-auto shotguns. Look, if you've got a problem that 8 rounds of buckshot fired is just as fast as you can pull the trigger, if you got a problem that can't handle, man, you got a big problem.
But Roger, who can shoot that? Your shoulder will be.
Maybe your shoulder. You're a pussy.
It's not that.
Well, what really matters is, if you want to make sure the person doesn't get back up, is the muzzle velocity. Even if you have
Mike Frager, have you ever even fired a BB gun?
Well, hold on. I'm curious what he's going to say about velocity.
So, even if you have one of these small AR pistols, is the bullet travels about triple the speed of, like, say, 9mm. Even, you don't have to get a very direct hit with that. The person will die of internal bleeding because of the shock wave the bullet produces.
It's sure.
Whereas
it depends on the bullet.
But people get shot by smaller rounds, slower rounds, and they rush them to the hospital and save them. But AR, high speed ammunition, not so much.
But here's the problem, though. So you did mention one thing. So with this, you said a smaller. I'm guessing you mean short barrel. The shorter the barrel of an AR, if you're shooting a 5.56 or 2.23 round, it is a very high velocity round. And part of the reason why they even went with it in the military is because generally, though, whoever's firing the most, you can carry a lot more ammunition than if you had 308 or a NATO 7.62 cartridge. But it is a fast round. But it was originally designed to go out of a 20-inch barrel, when you start getting like a lot of the thugs, I see them with their 5.5 inch and 7.5 inch barrels. You lose a shit ton of velocity out of a short barrel. It produces a gnarly flash. All kinds of things. I mean,
no, it's going to go about the same speed.
No, it goes.
It's just going to be less accurate. No, because
the time it spends in
it's dwell
the time it spends in the barrel, it's accelerating. As soon as it leaves the barrel, it's no longer accelerating. So the longer the barrel, the more accelerate.
So it's called dwell time. So the longer the barrel is, and it's twisting through the barrel, the more it's being accelerated with the powerful gases, and so the muzzle velocity out of the 20-inch AR-15 is going.
Io just said it.
No, he's using the proper terms, though. I said just acceleration barrel, but he's using the technical terms of weapons because I'm a Canadian bitch, right?
No, I'm just trying to explain to him what dwell time is. But the reason why, like I said earlier, you get a huge flash. But the reason why you get a huge flash out of a world AR-15 is because those gases are exploding outside of the barrel after the bullet's already left. And so it's still a pretty fast round.
Most of the velocity comes from the amount of grains of powder. So whether the barrel's a little shorter or longer is not going to have a huge percentage amount of change. Well, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I don't think you're necessarily wrong. But
hold on, I'll see if I can find one for 5.5, and then going all the way up to 20. It also will affect how far, which obviously you need higher velocity to reach out further distances. Something like a 5.5 inch AR-15 pistol would maybe be good for 150 meters at most. You can push out past 600 with the 20 inch.
This is like a standard piece of knowledge, though, for weapons. This is like one of the first things you learn. So I'm not sure where you're coming from.
But most of the time, if you're in a gunfight in the U.S., you are well within 150 meters of the person you're shooting. You're probably like 30 meters away or less.
Yes. No, you're generally like 7 feet or closer. No, the only reason I mentioned the 150 versus 600 is because that is just how much the barrel difference makes in producing velocity and keeping the bullet stable in the air to hit a target.
I have a question for Mike Frager. Mike, how many gunfights have you been in?
Fortunately, none.
Amazing.
I've been in quite a few.
What?
I have some numbers here. So something like a 3-inch barrel for a 9mm handgun is about 1,000 feet per second. 5-inch barrel increases that velocity to about 1,200 feet per second. 16-inch barrel on a .223 Remington is 2,900. 20-inch barrel is 3,200 feet per second. So it may not seem like much, but that does make.
It depends on the target you're aiming at or where you're trying to go through. So if you take the coefficient and you're accounting for drag, so on a high windy day, you're not going to ask for more velocity. You're going to actually use the formula of the higher the BC or the ballistic coefficient, you're going to ask for a lower velocity rate because it's going to produce less drag and it's going to be able to slice. But both options can actually, a higher velocity, you can hit a target at a great distance. It just depends on how good a shot you are, and it depends on the conditions and a lot of other factors. I'm not a sniper, I'm not a long-range shooter, but there's a lot more to it than just velocity. Velocity doesn't just guarantee that you can reach out and tap somebody. There's a few other factors that come into play.
Yeah, I would say the bullet geometry also, if it's a full metal jacket or collapsing, like a bullet that collapses and imparts the momentum that it was carrying, or if it just cuts through. Because if it cuts through, that might actually be advantageous depending on where you get hit. So it really depends on where and how you...
AR 5.56 is known for being a tumbling round when it hits you.
And what I would say, this started based on saying that so many people these days got fully automatic weapons and saying that like it don't matter. But what I would just say that if everybody got fully automatic handguns like Glocks with 50, 60 round drums, fully automatic really fucking matters. It really, like, if you're shooting at somebody 30 feet away and you got 50 shots that's coming in under 10 seconds, that's some fucked up shit. And that's what's going on. That's what's going on right now. Regardless of velocity or distance, that's some fucked up shit.
The P50 gives you kind of the best of all worlds there. Now, sure, it doesn't have a super long barrel, but it is fast enough to punch through most body armor and carries 50 rounds in a pistol format.
Who's wearing body armor? Hakeem, does anybody
Cops
wear body armor?
Cops wear.
No, you can't wear body armor because if you getting caught with body armor, if you just a regular citizen with body armor, it's a charge. And if you got an illegal handgun with body armor, that's another charge.
Well, body armor is legal. I know some.
I got hell of body armor. I don't know.
But you can have like level 4 plates and all of that shit here. But it's if you commit it, similar to like if you have a gun while selling drugs. If you use body armor while
committing a crime.
Yeah, it's an additional charge.
That's so weird. That feels counterintuitive.
That's one it.
Yeah, basically telling everybody don't wear body armor. I don't give a fuck. Like, so basically, you got to stand around naked.
Yeah, so everybody
like,
shoots.
There's literally nobody walking around with body armor. Like, no, nobody.
But P50 will punch through a substantial amount of it.
So you guys talking about the bullets, but remember the bullets material different. I mean, the one that we used in Iraq, it was a little bit different than the one they use here in the United States. I think some of
Depleted uranium.
Yeah, you can get those. Those are like, I mean, technically they're only made for the military, but people you can find them.
They're illegal. Yeah, there's a federal charge on them if you.
No, you don't get a federal charge for it. Nobody really.
For the steel.
It's United Nations restricted. Yeah.
Well, no. Here in the United States, it's not. It's if I recall, it's not technically illegal. It's just that if you get caught with them, it's more or less like it's not. You can have them taken away from you. It's
I thought
really
it was a war crime to have them.
What about Teflon? What about Teflon?
I remember it's a crime. It's a federal case. I will check that. I'm not sure 100% about it. I don't have.
But it's like $100 a round. I mean, go knock yourself out and buy some.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. But see, those ones actually does have a lot of velocity. I mean, we're talking about like metal that will go through easily. But also remember, when you have a better velocity with the weapon, I mean, like what I said earlier, your shoulder will be gone because you're definitely going to have more power down there, and also the recoil will be just insane.
I don't know how well it works for I mean, I have like green tipped like the MA255A1 ammo. I guess it's like it's considered light armor penetrating. I mean, it's perfectly legal, but I just bought them because it was available.
Is that?
That's funny. So that's funny. The U.S. was trying to transfer depleted uranium rounds to Ukraine. And there was a question of the legality of them not committing a war crime just by virtue of transporting it in international waters because of the regulations internationally. But the U.S. domestically, you're right, Pepe, doesn't seem to give a shit. There's no explicit law, which is fucking what?
I mean, there's YouTubers that openly that I know have not been arrested that buy them to make their videos. And of course, they're going to get paid for their videos, so why not? But they'll buy the rounds and test them out on body armor, bowling balls, like whatever hard shit they can shoot at. But yeah, I mean, like I said, they're very, very fucking expensive. In fact, I don't know what. I don't even know why. I personally just, even if they were cheap, I wouldn't even own them. Like, what am I gonna fucking do with that? Like, I can't think of any situation where I need to shoot through an up-armored Humvee and hit somebody. Like, if I'm going to use a weapon for self-defense, the last thing I want is, like, any over-penetration. And, like, even, like, where I live in a condo, I'm not going to use my ARs for defense just because I'd be a little too worried about over-penetration.
Mike was talking earlier about the accuracy. I remember the M4. It had really good accuracy, to be honest, even with like shooting 30 bullets.
I'm not from. I've never pushed one out past a couple hundred yards. I know they in the military they have like cards or some shit they have to do, and I don't even know what the fuck they're called.
You have to group in zero at 500 meters in the Army with your M4. It's a small target that they put at the different ranges that you have to basically get within the. You have to get your group in within the center mass to actually pass.
I mean, they've had like really neat, like those Trigicon scopes that they came out with. I don't know, like maybe 20 years ago. That they're magnified, and I guess it'll even be for like specific barrel lengths, so it's like a tremendous aid in shooting accurate. I guess like they were at one point. I don't know if it was in Iraq. They were investigating whether or not like there were war crimes being committed just because of they felt that like at the ranges I don't know whether it's Marines or Army or whoever they're hitting their targets from pretty good distance accurately.
When I was in, they had us on the what's the name of that thing? They had us on the EOXA, the HHS-2 systems. Those shits are crazy, bro. Those shits make like targets at like 125 meters look like they right up on you. Like once you flip that shit to the side and you put the big one down, like the actual scope, with the reticle in it, not the holographic side itself. Once you flip that shit to the side, bro, that shit is like the target is right up on you. So easy to paint that fucker. It should be a war crime. If we were able to use that shit in combat, yeah, that shit should be a war crime, bro.
I got two of those with the magnifiers. Yeah, that's just plain. It's like the donut, the round holographic sight, I guess, is like, it is termed in the military like the donut of death because it will, like the average height man, it will at 100 yards. That's how wide how wide the circle is. So it's like super easy to shoot someone. As reference.
So I guess the chatter about the guns has died down. I will point out, my opinion, that it's just sooner or later the U.S. does have to join most of the developed world and ban guns. We can't just have.
What the fuck?
Why?
I wanna move to America one day, become a citizen, and own a gun. Don't you fucking make it illegal before I get there, you fucking jack.
But Mike, I'm just curious.
Wait, why do you want to move here and own one? I want to hear that part.
But Mike, we were kind of talking about this earlier. There's certain demographics of, I won't get into the obvious ones, but young males in particular commit way more violent, I'll just say murders than older men, and particularly women of all ages. I would say we're just, when it comes to the modern world, we're much different than, with our population than what you see in Europe. Maybe not Eastern Europe as much, but of course they're not, that civilized. But if you look at Western Europe and East Asia, we're kind of...
So I'm answering
bigger
questions from
implications.
Maybe, but the ways that we are out of step with them, I think it makes more sense for us to become aligned with them instead of tolerating endless gun violence, which is much, much higher in the U.S. Maybe adopting the way
things he says. First of all, they're risky companies.
Abortion, medical services, the way they do it, seems to be the way of the future, not our way. So, I think it's only a matter of time. We'll only want to be out of step, for so long, and then we'll come around with kind of the rest of the developed world sooner or later.
Well, I think that's naive because of the number of guns already in existence here. But I guess I'll ask you this question. Under Bolsonaro, they did relax gun laws a little bit. It's still very difficult to get a lot of types of guns,
got this
or to even
skylight
get a
for
gun,
$8
let
off
alone
the
carry
TikTok
one in
shop.
Brazil.
I'm gonna set it up in my living room.
But Brazil has some of the highest.
It has
Their
this little
cities are
remote.
always within the top 10.
Whoa,
Very
I just turned the
violent
lights off.
place,
This is
despite
so
strict gun
sick.
laws. Now, do you think that it's a
These are the
demographic
lights that they were
problem,
talking
or
about.
do you think it's
They
a
are
gun
crazy
problem?
bright.
I'm going to
It's
vote
literally lighting up the entire
demographic problem
What I
all
like
day,
about them is
and I
you can
don't
literally
see
put them in any shape you want to be in. For example,
their
I can
issues
bring
really
them back up
changing
here,
with
and then I got a whole
even
different shape.
stricter gun
Yes,
laws,
there
which
is
are
like a
already
million
super
different
fucking
colors
strict.
that you can choose from. Do you want these lights? I'm gonna be linking them in the TikTok.
There's just that if Americans love their guns, it'll be a hard sell to ultimately do. But I think people may see things differently in the future, especially if the gun violence kind of stays at the rate it is here in the U.S. It will be more and more and more clear just that the other countries don't have the same kind of problems. Like, take Japan. Like in Japan, approximately less than 10 people get killed by gun violence every year. That's like 1 month in one city in the U.S. So, how long?
You don't have samurai.
But
You don't have the samurai mafia from Japan, right? The Yakuza. Like that, I think, is a huge factor. I think in Japan, in the history of Japanese culture, there's a self-policing that occurs at almost like the fucking next-door neighbor level. And if anyone's interested, like, just watch Shogun for a culture shock.
But I was just
We're
going to
at
say
a
this.
juncture in the drug war, which drives a lot of violence.
For sure, but I brought up Japan earlier before you came in, and I thoroughly believe this. If they let in, if 40% of their population became people of European descent, even if they kind of assimilated to their culture, I'm just convinced that whatever reason, probably some of it biological, white men are going to be more violent. They're just not going to be like the Japanese. And you have a very high trust society, very homogenous, very conformist. They're just so much different than us that we cannot become like them. The crime there of all kinds is extremely low compared to the rest of the world. And I can start, I can quote former Japanese prime ministers for why they thought we had some of the issues we have. And they always pointed towards demographics. They're keenly aware of it. I know it's politically incorrect here, but Japanese people are just, you can't
Pepe is a moron.
Hi. Yes. I have the best frozen grape salad, quote unquote, air quote, recipe that I can't wait to give you.
You gotta text me.
You have to go to the grocery store after Passover.
You want grapes? You just
No.
frozen grapes?
You can't just use any Jell-O. You need Star Burst cherry flavor.
Oh yeah, you gotta send that to me.
I will.
That I really wanted to be. But I realized that I had all the tools and faculties to figure out a couple of critical things internally, which is that I enjoy sacrificing and I enjoy the effort so much that I'll allow myself to be a tool for the wrong things. And that will harbor or foster a resent in me that I just don't know what to do with oftentimes. And so
vaccinated, right? I don't know. I haven't read.
They're gonna definitely come get you. You don't, in life, you don't get away with anything. It may appear that you got away with it, but the universe is like, gotcha. So you don't get away with anything. That's, in my life, I just try to walk and
Amazing, to be honest.
Are you atheist, right?
No, I'm not an atheist. I'm an agnostic.
Oh, you're agnostic. Oh, which is okay, which is nice.
Okay, everybody, this is Wisdom Hypnosis book reading. I'm going to read a book for about 15 minutes and then go get dinner. What's going on?
In the room that we're in, we got Alfonso, and then we have all these scientists in there.
Yeah, I like Alfonso. He's a nice guy, but I don't know. I think he's a schmuck.
Yeah, I don't think he's all there.
Yeah, but that's well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I know he takes medication, so it probably, fucks with him a bit, but
he is a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. You know why most people go on these psychiatric medications for their erratic behavior? It's because they were drinking.
Right. And some woman just tried to kill him, usually.
What are you doing tonight?
Just hanging out tonight. I worked out this morning, so I'm actually pretty sore. I've been working out like pretty intense for the past week, so I got back into that. How about you?
I'm gonna read a wisdom book, and then I am going to go get dinner. I was trying to schedule a date, but these girls are not coming through, and
They're getting expensive.
yeah, for high class prostitutes.
Hey man, shut out those sex workers. I think they're needed.
I guess so. It's kind of true, but you know what? The truth is, masturbation is needed. Sex workers are not. I mean, I guess you get the benefit of being touched, but to tell you the truth, it's going to the gym is probably just as good for your mental health as physical touches.
I guess, but there's a lot to say about a professional.
There's a lot to say about a girl who fucks like a goddess. I mean, those are far and few between. Usually they're lazy fucking pigs. You can't even move and you got to do all the work yourself.
That's why you need a pro. You pay them to do all of that.
No, I get it. I'm just trying to make arguments for why prostitution is not needed.
Well, it's one of the oldest professions on the planet. And there's a reason for that. And no matter what you do, you're never going to get rid of it. And the governments are so jealous because they
best they were able to do was to support
What?
saying that the best that the government could do was to, support the institution of marriage and to give all kinds of tax deductions to basically sell you a marriage license.
Yeah. So
I think we would all be better if they remember that hologram girlfriend that came out in Blade Runner 2049. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you and I would be better off with the holographic girlfriend like that.
I think we would be much better off if we looked like that blonde-haired guy who played Ken in the Barbie movie. That's my opinion. Ryan Gosling? I mean, that's who we need to be reincarnated as. No, but I know what you're saying. Like, I mean, those chatbots have always been around, but they should be at the level where I should be able to download an app and purchase a girlfriend. I guess you could say Grok or Chat GPT is technically the same thing, but not aesthetically pleasing.
But they should have like the equipment, just like they did in Blade Runner, right? How she would be walking around the house preparing meals, and you get home and she's like, "Hi, honey, welcome to your home. Use the pussy."
There's this guy Shuki on this app. He said a funny expression the other day. He says, "What one hair on a pussy can do, 10 horses cannot do."
Yeah, I think I was in that room. I heard somebody say something like that. So, hey, did you see the movie Napoleon?
No. Fuck that guy. That movie looks so stupid.
No, it was good, dude.
Was it?
I saw it.